Unfortunately, it wasn't a McFlurry, but we did have a Dejounte Flurry in Atlanta last night. Dejounte got his shots up early and often. 44 points on 40.
How many shots?
Shots.
How many?
Including hitting all 5 shots in overtime. Look, Murray's mentality was just to get them up, and he gave them an outstanding effort out there. And look,
where was that in the dunk contest?
I don't know where it was in the dunk contest, but oh my God, Jaylen Brown. Look, you don't get a body out there on the dunk contest, but in the fourth quarter, Dejounte Murray going to work. And look, they have so many defenders on the Celtics roster that none of them, everybody's going to get that work.
These are all NBA defenders.
All NBA defenders, the best team in the league, and Dejounte Murray, he sees them and he just goes to work. Look at this, over top of Porzingis, offensive rebound, out. Those are just dagger threes. And look, Celtics up by 3, tie it right there. I don't know what you do if you're Celtics. You take 2 straight L's to Atlanta, but look, I've always been a person that says, hey, these are the things that can kind of help get you locked in down the stretch in overtime. Like we said, Dejounte Murray knocking down shot after shot in the overtime for Atlanta. It was just impressive. But look, Boston's not going to go away. They're going to fight. They're going to grind. Jaylen Brown, bucket. Celtics up by 1 now. 6 seconds ago in overtime, Celtics up by 1. Drew Holiday,
I mean, it's pretty good defense.
That's great defense. I stand by the best defense versus the best offense. I'm taking the best offense. Look at Dejounte Murray going against Drew Holiday. We already saw Derek White get some of those. But look at him, he's out there dancing in Atlanta. It was just an impressive night for Dejounte Murray, what he was able to do out on the floor, just bucket after bucket. We don't have time to show all 44 shots.
I mean,
we don't have that. But Dejounte Murray, he had some comments after the game.
It's the NBA, right? That's the best team in the league. We competed, you know. We didn't use being tired or anything, a back-to-back as an excuse. We came out and competed, and these are the games I want to be a part of. And I still feel like I played awful. I don't want to take them many shots, but I know Kobe will be proud of me.
Boston was a massive favorite on Thursday, and they lost again, which gives them multiple losses this season as 15-point favorites. The only other teams to do so since 1990 both lost in the first round of the playoffs in that respective season. But Joe Mazzulla, he doesn't seem too concerned.
How demoralizing is we?
Come on, man. I'm really trying hard here to, like, you know, it's not demoralizing. Demoralizing?
Look, I'm going to agree with them. Demoralizing is a very aggressive word, especially if you're the first place team. You're going to lose a game. You're going to lose a game in overtime. But, Zach, why is it that the Celtics' losses feel so loud?
Let's start with the good news, Richard. They feel so loud partly because there's so few of them, and they never win close games. They only win blowouts, and so we have very few dramatic Celtics moments to talk about, and they're all this. But their crunch time offense is too slow and too predictable, and it's mediocre league-wide, and that's not going to be good enough against the best defenses who are going to play you in close games in the playoffs. It's not a crisis. It feels like a crisis because the Celtics are the best team. We hold them to a high standard, and they don't lose very often, but just give the ball to Jason Tatum and everyone else stands around. Hasn't worked well enough last year, the year before, or this year. They need to get more dynamic. Why is Kristaps Porzingis just standing in the corner, possession after possession? Come up and set a screen, run a pick and pop, get the offense moving. Derek White, the best screen setter on the whole team, run around and do some stuff. This isn't good enough. It's not a crisis. This is the best team in the East. It's all fine in the big picture, but there are going to be games that come down to this, just like these last 2 Hawks games, and the Celtics need to get a little more juice to their late game offense.
Yeah, they need a little bit more juice. Again, like you said, though, they're blowing out so many teams, and when they get to these close games, when they lose, everyone wants to be concerned. But Big Perk, how big of a red flag do you think these late game issues are that keep popping up?
I wouldn't say that it's demoralizing, but I will say it's very disturbing, especially at this moment, right? And I feel like we're constantly, every time the Celtics play and lose one of these games, we are revisiting this conversation because they haven't corrected the problem. Jason Tatum, he hasn't corrected the problem. He's still not showing up when they need him the most in the clutch time moments. And you know this, Richard, at this point of the season, all the teams that are in the postseason or in the play-in tournament, they're starting to gear up for the postseason, meaning they have NBA scouts that are in the stands, that are watching the Boston Celtics. You know why? Because they need a game plan. And right now they look vulnerable. And that's a huge part of why I have concern. Because going into the postseason, you want the scouting report to say, you know what? We're going to try to do this. We're going to try to do that. You don't want teams, especially your opponents in the Eastern Conference, getting any type of confidence. And when you look at the people that are walking down the sidelines, meaning the head coaches that are in the Eastern Conference, you have a Tom Thibodeau, who is a great head coach. You have a Eric Spoelstra. You have a Nick Nurse. You have a Doc Rivers. So, Joe Mazzulla, I know it may feel like fun and games right now, but you're going to have to do your part in these clutch game moments, in these times, coaching against the other people on the other side of the court.
People who have little injuries like Jason Tatum have been sitting games here and there. They're just trying to get to the finish line of this regular season because, as you keep seeing, they have an 11-game lead on the Bucks, okay? The 11-game lead for second place here. It's really hard to keep that level of performance that they've had all year long when they would benefit more from making sure their key guys have time, get into the playoffs fresh, aren't burning themselves out in the regular season. The problem is when you take your foot off the gas even a little bit, you get games like this. You build the big lead, you think you can just hold it, then you get a team like the Hawks who, by the way, they're in 10th right now. I'm not saying we don't look at the bottom of the Eastern Conference play-in tournament as much as we do the West, but the Hawks are in 10th. That could be a potential first-round series again. I know that they've had that, but you don't want to give a team like that confidence, especially if it's a team you might see in the first round.
Well, and the Hawks are fighting for something.
Yeah.
That's, I think, the thing that people greatly underestimate. The Boston Celtics come to town. You're going to have more fans there. It's going to be more energy. You're fighting for something. I get it. But to stay on the Hawks, the Celtics, they might struggle late in games, but Dejounte Murray does night. Murray has 3 buzzer beaters so far this season, the first of which came on January 17th with the game winner over Markelle Fultz to knock over the Magic. That was a big, big shot. And then 2 nights later, Murray had the Heat absolutely sick with his pull-up 3 to win the game. And it might have also been on Udonis Haslem's jersey retirement night, so that makes it a little bit worse. And then here, on Thursday night, the McFlurry continues with a huge bucket to sink the Celtics in overtime. Those are the games. When you get to beat the Celtics, you remember those for the rest of your life. And look, the Hawks have been without Trey Young for 22 games this season, and it's shown some interesting trends. The Hawks have a winning record in those games and improved on the defensive end with Dejounte Murray running the show. So my thing about this is Perk. My question to you, Dejounte clearly plays better when he's the one running the show. So do you think it's time to kind of end this Trey Young, Dejounte Murray experiment? I'll leave it up to you, big guy.
Richard, are you asking me to get uncomfortable? That's what you're asking me right now, to have an uncomfortable conversation, because you can hear the whispers. And in all fairness to Trey Young, he have to expect that this conversation was going to come about, because when you get injured and your team starts to play better without you, and the guy is leading your team that played your position, this conversation needs to be had. And I think that the Atlanta Hawks is going to have to make a decision this upcoming offseason, whether they want to continue with Dejounte Murray or whether they want to go with Trey Young. Now, if they decide to go with Dejounte Murray, and he is Quinn Snyder guy, there's still some interesting teams out there for Trey Young, like the San Antonio Spurs, or maybe like the Los Angeles Lakers. But do I think this duo right now has ran its course and has come to an end? I absolutely do.
I mean, look, they're 10th in the East. They're 10th in the East, and they're playing slightly better without him in the lineup, but some of that could also just be clarity. It could be schedule, it could be injuries that they've gotten guys back from, even though Trey Young is out. And I do think both of them will hear their name in trade talks, and the biggest difference is, quite frankly, Trey Young makes a lot more money, so it's harder to make a trade for Trey Young than it is for Dejounte, and I think it's, when we get to the season, we'll see who the bidders are. I think, Perk, you mentioned those teams. I think you'll hear a lot more teams out there because nobody outside of Philadelphia or Orlando really has cap space this summer. And the only way to get a star player is probably to trade for one. And there's a lot of teams that would be interested in the services of these two guys. So I expect both of them to hear their names. It's a function, though, of who wants them and what are they willing to give up, because we've now seen a year and a half of them under Quinn Snyder, and he's had an evaluation period. You have to decide, is it time to break them up, but at what cost? What are you getting back in return?
I'm not uncomfortable. Perk, I don't know about you. My chair's comfortable. My blazer's comfortable. This is a very comfortable conversation because we've got 2 years of evidence now that Dejounte Murray plus Trey Young equals mediocre. They are minus 150 total points for the season with those two guys on the floor. They just don't add up to more than the sum of their parts. They're mediocre with Trey and Dejounte. They're okay, probably mediocre with just Dejounte. If there's no change in the quality of your team, you should absolutely trade one of them for as many draft picks and future assets as you can get just to stock the cupboard again with all the stuff you traded out the door to get Dejounte Murray and put this team together. Look, it's not a surprise, really, that they haven't taken a step back because there wasn't that big of a step back to even take. It's not a surprise that their defense is better without Trey Young. And by the way, Jalen Johnson's hurt. Sadiq Bey's hurt. Onyeka Okongwu's hurt. Like, the Hawks are not whole. And that's another reason, by the way, I don't want to hear this Celtics loss last night excused by the 11-game lead and their coasting. The Hawks have half their team, and I watched that game start to finish. The Celtics played hard, and they wanted to win that game. They were not coasting in that game. They were fired up. They were playing hard against a team that had half its roster, basically, and they still lost. The Celtics are fine in the big picture. Their crunch time offense is just okay. It's not a disaster. It needs to be better. But I just don't want these Atlanta losses wiped away as, oh, they mean nothing. It's just a team that was coasting. That team wasn't coasting last night. They wanted to win, and they couldn't.
Hey, what's up, guys? Jack from Shaggy Sports here. Let's talk about last night. Boston Celtics lost to the Atlanta Hawks, and it was a nail-biter. It was a nail-biter, but the fact that remains is they lost to the Hawks twice in 1 week, and they were actually favored to beat them last night. So I know I took to Twitter last night, and then all of a sudden, one guy said that he won a lot of money because he bet big on the Hawks. And, you know, sure enough, he got it. So let's talk about what the Celtics are doing. Now, you obviously saw the clip. And, you know, some teams go through slumps. But do we just give up on the Celtics? Do we actually say the Celtics are done? I don't think so. Again, it's the regular season. And I know everybody's thinking, oh, this time is crucial, make a push for the playoffs. Celtics are like in prime position, right? I don't think that we can fairly say, oh, they're done, they're slumping, they're not going to do well, nobody fears the Celtics. You know, again, they're going to figure this thing out, and that's just the bottom line, right? Because you got to take a look at the competition here. You got a lot of teams that are very good, but take a look at Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Kristaps Porzingis, and Drew Holiday. 4 of those, and obviously Derek White. So the Celtics have the experience because we all saw them in the playoffs, in crucial playoffs, for the last 3 to 4 years. They're always in the hunt. And something's going to give. And this year, I got to admit, this year is the best Celtics team I've seen in a long time. Because they have every single piece. And yeah, I get it. They lost twice to the Hawks this week. Maybe the Hawks are, you know, not the team for them. because they obviously don't do well against the Hawks. But I'm just saying that, you know, they could fairly do well with against the Bucks or the Knicks or the Cavs or the Heat. We don't know, right? At the end of the day, Celtics are legit, and either way, they're going to be in the conference finals. That's what my take is. Either way, they are going to make a push. Again, this is just the regular season, but I kind of want to hear from you guys. I know there's a lot of Celtics Nation out there right now, locked on Celtics, talking about, you know, hearing it from the media, hearing it from opposing fans, and, you know, saying the Celtics are done, the Celtics are done. I don't think they're done. I just don't think so, right? Everybody goes through slumps. Everybody has bad days. And to say that they're done just because of what happened this week, they had a bad week, right? Everybody goes through this. It's not a big deal. Take a look at their roster, and on paper, they look damn good. They look damn good. Just a one-off. That's all I gotta say. But, you know, what do you guys think? What do you guys think in terms of the Celtics' chances in the playoffs? I'm not talking about regular season. Quite frankly, the Celtics don't even have to play for the regular season. There's what, like 2.5 weeks left, 2 weeks left. They do not have to play for the regular season. They are in prime position. They might as well rest their stars now and be ready for the playoffs. Because best Celtics team I've seen in a long time is this year. So tell me what you guys think. How will the Celtics favor against the rest of the Eastern Conference team and obviously the rest of the NBA? Leave a comment in the comment section. Tell me what you guys think. This is Jag from Jaggy Sports.